Hi everyone, my name is Ava and I'm an American living in the Netherlands, and today I wanted to talk to you about efficiency in Dutch culture. I have been amazed at how efficient Dutch people are, not just in their work life, but also in their private lives. I have a lot to talk to you about today, so let us get into this list as quickly as possible. I see what I did there. Ik ben blijkbaar goed ingeburgerd. But no, seriously, I've lived in the Netherlands for a couple of years now, and I have just been impressed at the level of Dutch efficiency when it comes to just basically everything. Like, for instance, in America, we like to say, work smarter, not harder. But in the Netherlands, the Dutch say, why state the obvious? Let us start by talking about the work culture here in the Netherlands. Honestly, Dutch people work the least amount of hours on average in all of Europe. And that may sound really surprising, but I've shown these numbers on this channel before, and anytime I mention this to a Dutch person, their rebuttal is always like, but we are so efficient. We do not take long lunch or coffee breaks. And you know what? That's true. Dutch people on average work somewhere between 28 to 30 hours a week, and they get a lot done. They're extremely productive. So the number of hours worked doesn't necessarily correlate with their productivity. It will come as no surprise to you if I tell you that in America, staying late at work is just completely normal. Here in the Netherlands, if you do that, people will be like, ooh, poor planning, Ava. Do we need to sign you up for a time management course? Because we offer them for free at work. Because if you take that, then you will be more efficient at your job. Such a huge cultural difference. Like in the US, if you leave your 9 to 5 at 5, your coworkers will be like, ooh, half day? And I already kind of touched on the fact that Dutch people don't like to take long breaks at work. And that's because they want to make sure they leave work on time so that they can go do other things with their lives. So this also is about the work and private life separation and balance, but it's also about just being efficient in everything they do. And to me, the one aspect of Dutch culture that is emblematic of Dutch efficiency when it comes to lunch is the boterham. The boterham is the perfect lunch for Dutch people who love to be efficient and who also want to eat reasonably healthy. It is bread with all kinds of creative, interesting spreads. It's easy, it's fast, it's nutritious, it tastes good. What is not to love about the boterham? I have come to appreciate sandwiches for lunch at work. When I first moved to the Netherlands, I would come in with my leftovers and I would always try to plan and make sure that I had a little extra over, or sometimes the night before I would even make a little pasta or something for myself, and I would show up to work with my little lunchbox with pasta, and my colleagues would be like, wow, Ava, I think they thought that I must really have my life put together just because I brought lunch to work. Whereas most people, and especially if they were Dutch at work, they would just have their sandwiches and they would eat their sandwiches. Sometimes people would even just go to the supermarket and grab some bread. Like, you'll see Dutch people with just a loaf of bread and like some cheese in their hand walking. I kid you not, if you walk through Amsterdam or Utrecht during lunchtime, you may see people with just like a loaf of bread and some cheese or like a spread walking to their office, you know, like, I'm gonna go eat my boterham now. Probably behind their desk because they want to be out of the office as soon as possible. Now, I don't want to just stick on the topic of work because honestly, efficiency, I have found, really permeates even the private life of Dutch individuals. And of course, some of the things that I'm going to be talking about also apply to their work lives and how Dutch people work at work and what we can learn from that. But I want to flip the focus to the private sphere because I actually find it interesting to see how Dutch people live their everyday lives just normally outside of work, and then you will also see how that carries over to their work life. Let's talk communication. Dutch directness is infamous around the globe. Dutch people are rude, they're direct, and you know, honestly, I think they're not so much rude. They're a little rude sometimes. I'm sorry, if you're Dutch and watching this, like, you have to admit, sometimes Dutch folks can be a bit tactless, but not always. Often I find that I've really come to appreciate Dutch directness, and I also find that it is extremely efficient. It saves you a lot of time. You do not need to spend time thinking about, oh, what did this person mean? Did they mean this or that? Because if you're trying to be indirect and soften the blow like we do in America, you might say something like, oh, that's an interesting idea. Why don't we hold on to that and explore other options? Whereas here in the Netherlands, they would be like, no, that idea sucks. Let's just move on to something else so that no one's wasting any time, and then you can just be as efficient as possible and make the most out of our precious time here on planet Earth. And Dutch people would rather use that time to express their opinions. Oh my God, if you've been around Dutch people at like meetings or discussions on anything, so even if you're just at a social gathering, they've got opinions and they're not afraid to express them. Americans are not afraid to express. We're not afraid to express our opinions either. Let me tell you, I am here on this channel expressing my opinion all the time. Great example of that American wish to do so. But Dutch people, I think they express their opinion and also expect others to do the same. So they're all about, let's all use this time to express our opinions. So going back to the work situation, like at work, there is something that Dutch people invented. It's called the folder model, and a folder is a Dutch concept. But basically, it just means that everyone's opinion and wish is taken into consideration when making a decision. It needs to have general consensus. Okay, in my experience, this is absolutely not the case. I find that Dutch people, they love expressing their opinion, but everyone's just gonna go with the most efficient and the option that makes the most sense. So people will just say what they think just because they enjoy the process of saying what they think, but they're just gonna make a decision based on what's efficient, and they're not wasting any time. It's almost like opinion, opinion, opinion. All right, check. Thank you. Let's move on to the next agenda point. Similarly, small talk is really not as big here in the Netherlands. In the US, we're all about the hi, how are you? And we don't wait for an answer. So you might think, oh my God, that's so efficient. What a great way to show that you care without putting any effort into it. If I phrase it that way, I'm surprised it hasn't caught on here in the Netherlands. But anyway, Dutch people are not about that. They're about, let's dive into the real stuff. Here in the Netherlands, I've had a situation quite often where, meeting up with friends for brunch and we're sitting down at the table. I have not had my morning coffee yet. I would love to order, but before we do, we're in a deep conversation about someone's private life and going into the nitty-gritty of it. Like, already, we've just sat down and we've dived right into the meat of the conversation, like right off the bat. So then the waitstaff comes over and they have to awkwardly interrupt our deep, meaningful conversation. Like already in the first 2 minutes. When I first moved to the Netherlands, I would still do a little bit of the small talk in the beginning, try to really ease my way into the meat of the conversation. But honestly, these days, I just sit down with a friend and I'm like, so, and the friend just starts talking about their stuff. And vice versa. Friend just needs to look at me and go, so. So one of the things you'll probably notice when you move to the Netherlands, like pretty much right away, is that Dutch people love their agendas, their calendars. They're married to that thing. If you want to plan anything with a Dutch person, the first thing they're gonna say to you is, ik moet in mijn agenda kijken. I need to look in my calendar and see if I can fit this in. Because Dutch people like to plan every single thing. They don't just like to plan their social events. They'll have what times they work in their calendar. They'll have the details of their social life in their calendar. So if they're hanging out with their partner, they'll be like date night in their calendar. I know people who put watch TV on the couch in their calendar. Like whatever it is people are doing, that's in their calendar. And Dutch people are doing a lot. Whereas in the beginning, people would ask me what I would do in my free time, like after work or on the weekends. I would be like, not much. I am exhausted. And you? And then they would just proceed to give me a bullet point list of all the things that they've been up to that week. And I think, oh my gosh, I would have a productive month if I did as much as what you've seemingly been able to do in 1 week. And here I was thinking that us Americans were always busy, but then I realized in America, we're always busy with work, and that's it. Whereas here in the Netherlands, people are extremely busy and they have like very little time to plan additional things. Like always, they're somehow always busy because they find ways to fill up their calendars. But they're very efficient in the process. So a weekend day for a Dutch person, I guess without kids, might be like 8 a.m., wake up, go for a run, 10 o'clock, brunch with friends or coffee with friends, and then at noon or 1, lunch with friends, and then a borrel with different friends, and then see family for dinner. Listen, I wish I was exaggerating, but I have learned so much from this way of planning things and being efficient because I think I've been able to do way more in my life now. Like if I had these skills when I lived in the US, I would have started this channel way sooner. Whereas when I moved to the Netherlands, I used my time to wander around and visit cafes, a perfectly reasonable way to spend time. But I think being around all of these efficient Dutch people made me think like, oh my God, I only have like X amount of time in my life. So I need to be doing interesting and productive things because Walking around to cafes is not like a good enough hobby. You need to have efficient, practical hobbies with results. And this is also part of Dutch culture, I find. And so now Dutch people who have all of these appointments in their calendars, how do they get to one place from another? Well, it's simple. They bike. Dutch people don't bike because they enjoy it. No, biking is a means to an end. It is a means to get from your coffee to your bottle and everything in between. Taking public transport, Dutch people, is inefficient. You can't rely on that. Walking, oh please, that's too enjoyable. We need to get there as quickly as possible. Cars, you've got traffic, so that's how Dutch people landed on biking. And I feel like even the Dutch bike is really efficient. It is so bare bones. Like the Oma Fiets doesn't have anything. It doesn't have gears. It doesn't even have front brakes. It's just a very plain bike because anything else requires more maintenance and that's not efficient either. So I honestly think Dutch people are so good at riding these like Oma Fietsen that they could complete a Tour de France on their Oma Fiets. While here I have since then learned to accept the biking culture and I love it, but I am still looking for a nice cushion for my seat because it hurts when I bike. I don't know how Dutch people have found a way around this. Like, do you just have like calluses down there? Like, how does it work? Like my behind just is so sore after biking for like an hour. Okay, now I wanted to talk about 3 other things that to me really indicate that Dutch people love efficiency, and efficiency really has permeated into every aspect of their lives and culture. And the first thing out of these 3 other things that I wanted to mention is the fact that Dutch TV shows or movies here in the Netherlands are just not dubbed. You only have subtitles. So if there's like an English TV show or a program, doesn't matter, Scandinavian, it just doesn't matter. It's going to just have subtitles in Dutch and it's never going to be dubbed, except for like kids' TV shows or movies. Stuff is not dubbed in the Netherlands. Why is that? If you ask a Dutch person, they will say, well, it's just more efficient to have subtitles and that way we can also learn the language that we're watching. So if we watch a lot of English TV shows and movies, we can learn English and that's why our English is so good. Wow. Incredible. Like I said, I am impressed. In America, we watch like a British TV show and we're like, why is this not dubbed? Their accent is so difficult to understand. Now, the other subtle cue to a Dutch efficiency that I've noticed is grocery shopping. So here in the Netherlands, not only are there going to be grocery stores relatively close by to where you live or work, but also the grocery shopping experience in and of itself is more efficient, I find. First of all, self-checkout counters are just really prevalent, way more prevalent than in the US. I think that makes checking out and grocery shopping really efficient because you're doing it pretty quickly. I've also noticed that the number of items in the grocery store are not as many as in the US. So in the US, if you want to buy cereal, you've got that huge long cereal aisle that you need to walk through and you come out of it, you know, a year older because it's just such a stressful process picking out cereal. Not to mention if you eat cereal, that's really bad for you. So, you know, all of this is just very inefficient. However, here in the Netherlands, you're gonna have a few choices. And I also find that like at the Albert Heijn now, they have a nutrition score on the items that you buy. I mean, they're not great. They're not very scientifically assigned to the products, but this is all a part of making things more efficient. You'll even sometimes see like a price favorite, like if something is cheap and bought often here in the supermarket here at the Albert Heijn, for instance. And other supermarkets do similar things. So basically they're trying to get you in and out as quickly as possible, help you find your items by having these clear signs and not having too many things. There's also this like funny order where the cheap items are just going to be at the bottom and the expensive items on the top. Obviously, so that you buy the more expensive items, because apparently stooping low to pick up an item is just so much more work. But anyway, at least there's a system there. So everything about the grocery stores here is pretty clear. The layout also makes a lot of sense, so I find that that's pretty efficient. And finally, I think Dutch houses and their layouts are also pretty efficient. I mean, you have to be. You go to Amsterdam and you can find a 2-bedroom fit into 50 square meters, and that's pretty common. And I kind of find like those apartments are not missing stuff. Whereas in America, if you have a 50 square meter 1-bedroom, you end up on like a TV program like, oh my God, small living, look at how you could do this. Whereas in Amsterdam, that would just be your everyday life. And it's not just Amsterdam. I know people often tell me that my reference is the Randstad. And you know, that might be true, but there's small Dutch houses everywhere in the Netherlands, and I've seen them. And they're not much bigger than the 50 square meters sometimes, and they're very efficiently like planned out. You have a kitchen, a dining area, and a couch all in one space. The bedrooms are really creative, and I enjoy seeing that. Anyway, so those were my observations and thoughts regarding efficiency here in the Netherlands, what I've learned from this experience, and what I've just seen around me. If you have any more comments on this topic, as usual, I would love to read them down below. And until next time.